Discover 3 spine-chilling parenting horror stories, unexplainable sinister secrets revealed. In the quiet suburb of Maplewood, the dark side of parenting lurked in the shadows like an uninvited guest. Sarah, a single mother working long shifts at the local diner, never imagined she'd be fighting for her children's safety against an unforeseen terror. With Alice, her 7-year-old, and energetic 5-year-old Ben, every night was a game of balancing exhaustion and worry. But as she turned to her seemingly perfect neighbors, the Wilkinsons, for help, everything changed. At first, they were just neighbors Jim and Clara, friendly smiles, and caring hands. "Let us watch the kids," they'd say, and with her tiring shifts, Sarah felt grateful. Little did she know, dark clouds were gathering over her seemingly idyllic life. Strange stories began trickling in. Alice came home with wild tales about secret games in the Wilkinsons' garden, and Ben, who once laughed freely, became a shadow of himself, hiding under his blankets, muttering that he didn't want to play anymore. Each evening, as the streetlights flickered on, Sarah's stomach churned at whispers of missing children. Parents exchanged worried glances, their hushed tones laced with dread. Collected items began to accumulate, odd symbols carved into trees, each more unsettling than the last. An ancient deity? Was the Wilkinsons' benevolent front merely a mask hiding something sinister? Sarah shook her head, trying to dismiss the thoughts. Yet, something deeper stirred inside her, a growing terror that wouldn't let go. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. One particular night, wrapped in the cloak of exhaustion, Sarah stumbled upon the Wilkinsons' yard. A flickering light bled through the space between the trees, drawing her attention like a moth to flame. The laughter of children echoed a sound warped and eerie in the cool night air, sending ice down her spine. Alice stood near the edge, laughing at something hidden in the bushes. "Come play with us, Mommy. The game is about to start," she called, but there was a disquieting edge to her voice. Fear erupted within Sarah. Memories of missing posters gripped her heart, every face of a child lost danced before her anxious mind. What was she doing, allowing them to take her children? The Wilkinsons' late-night rituals played in her thoughts, their unblinking eyes that seemed to linger too long on her kids. And now, this unnatural joy radiating from Alice, a child's laughter shouldn't feel like a siren call to danger. She turned to flee back to the safety of her home, but in that moment, Alice's laugh transformed, twisting into something both haunting and grotesque. "You can't leave yet, Mommy. We need you for the next round." Panic surged through her veins. The weight of reality sunk deeper, the nightmare many folded over had begun to open its mouth, inviting her in. Her children were lost somewhere in the chilling demands of the Wilkinsons' world. The question echoed louder, racing through her mind: had she already lost them? Sarah's heart pounded a wild rhythm as she stumbled backwards, her breath shallow and quick. The world around her blurred, the hallowed calm of the suburban night shattered by that macabre invitation. It was a game, it felt like a trap, one she had inadvertently walked into. The eerie laughter of her daughter rang out, twisting and turning through the trees, compelling yet unsettling. "Run!" A primal instinct screamed inside her, but her body felt anchored, weighed down by fear and doubt. If she turned back, would Alice chase her? Would the Wilkinsons block her way? The children she once knew were slipping away, drowned in the ominous laughter. Gathering her resolve, she turned to sprint towards home. Her feet moved as if through thick mud, every step a battle against the invisible hand clutching her emotions. Shadows danced across the sidewalk, swirling with the whispers of dark secrets, urging her to glance back. But she couldn't. Not now. She raced past the grotesque symbols etched crudely into the trees, each marking a piece of her diminishing sanity. With every breath, the oppressive air thickened, and images of alternate realities invaded her mind, her children playing willingly in the Wilkinsons' yard, their faces painted in shadow, their eyes void of recognition. As Sarah burst through her front door, panic swelled. She locked it, as if physical barriers could keep out the encroaching darkness. She pressed her back against it, heart thundering against her chest, straining to hear the sound of Alice entering, or the whisper of sinister plans. The house felt feverishly still, empty of the usual comfort she was used to. "Mommy!" Ben's sweet voice shattered the silence, pulling her towards the living room. There he stood, wide-eyed yet eerily calm, clutching his favorite toy, a faded dinosaur that had seen better days. "Where's Alice?" A chill nod at Sarah. The innocence in Ben's tone seemed trivialized in that moment, a mocking reminder of the foreboding that loomed outside. "She's just playing, honey. She'll be back soon," she managed to reply, forcing a smile that felt like a mask. But the shadow of doubt pressed heavier. Time dragged on, each tick of the clock resonating in the hollow room. Sarah paced, adrenaline transforming her frustration into desperation. The thoughts of the Wilkinsons clawed at her, their smiles now grotesque puppets hiding wickedness beneath porches. The children's laughter tainted, transformed by something dark and ancient. The air felt charged, thick with unspoken ties. It wrapped around her, tightening its grip. Another knock shattered her fraying sanity, a children's whisper drifting through the heavy wood. "Mommy, let us in." The voice, lilted with sweetness, sent a fresh wave of dread crashing over her. "Stay away from the door, Ben," she hissed, panic lacing her voice. The knocking became persistent, echoing a sinister countdown. In the dim light, Sarah felt the pulse of fear trip over itself as she dared to look through the peephole. But nothing could prepare her for the vision that awaited. Alice stood there, her face lit by the porch light, but her eyes, oh God, her eyes were void of warmth, a blackened abyss pulling at Sarah's very soul. Beside her, Jim and Clara stood with twisted smiles, their bodies contorted in unnatural ways, like marionettes bound by unseen strings so close yet so far from human. "Mommy, we need you." "It's time for the game," Alice declared, the sweetness stripped from her tone. The room around Sarah began to spin, each second stretching unbearably, suffocating her in uncertainty. She slammed her eyes shut, bracing herself for whatever horror was about to descend. But as the darkness threatened to pull her under, the door burst open. The Wilkinsons surged in, their hands reaching out, their whispers coaxing not just her children, but her very essence into the twisted game. "Not the next round, Mommy." Clara's voice trailed off, losing itself in the shadows that engulfed Sarah. And then it all faded to black. What happened in that moment echoed in Sarah's mind long after. When she opened her eyes once more, would her children be there, staring back through the veil of darkness, transformed? Or would the game begin anew, leaving her to wonder if she'd ever escape or if she'd become part of the sinister tale as well? A gasp tore from Sarah's lungs as she blinked into the thick, oppressive darkness. Fear coiled tightly around her, squeezing her heart as she sat up, disoriented. It felt like waking from a nightmare, only to find out it was real. The room was dim, shadows flickering like restless spirits in the corners. She reached out instinctively, her fingers brushing against the cold, hard floor. Breathing heavily, she forced her senses to sharpen, listening for any signs of Alice, Ben, or the Wilkinsons. Silence hung like an executioner's blade, menacing and ready to fall. "Ben," she called, her voice trembling. It waded into the air, heavy and stagnant. No answer. A wave of desperation surged within her. She threw herself to her feet, stumbling as she instinctively searched for the light switch. Flicking it on, the yellow glow illuminated the living room, revealing a pitiful scene. Toys scattered across the floor, as if a tornado had swept through. The couch cushions slumped as if holding secrets too heavy to bear. Frantic, she rushed to the front door, the chilling memory of the Wilkinsons flooding back. Who would she find outside? What had truly happened in those moments? She didn't want to think, didn't want to know, but there was no escaping it. "Stay in here, Ben," she barked, the authority in her voice faltering. Beneath the door, she could see shadows moving, twisting, and vibrating in a way that made her stomach churn. What had the children become? What token, what price had they paid in this twisted game? "Mommy, we want to play." A high-pitched voice echoed from outside, but it was wrong, too sharp, too eager. "Get away from the door!" she shrieked, panic morphing her voice into something unrecognizable. The whispers suddenly harmonized with soft laughter. Tinkling yet twisted, echoing memories of carefree days, before darkness wrapped around their playtime like poison. They were coming for more than just her, she realized slowly. They were after her spirit, her will. Sarah rushed towards the back door, envisioning an escape route. Fear paired with urgency propelled her. But as her trembling hands reached for the knob, the house seemed to shudder, the walls groaning in protest. "Mommy!" Ben shouted again from the other room. "Ben!" she cried, torn between saving him and saving herself. Only now did she realize the depth of the horror. Whatever was out there was playing for keeps. It would pull her in and twist her very essence until nothing but darkness remained. The sounds grew louder, more impatient, soft thuds and faint scraping. The Wilkinsons and Alice knew she was trapped, knew they had her right where they wanted. Now the only question that gnawed at her was how far they would go, how deep this horror ran. The urge to flee bubbled within her, a visceral need to escape the tightening grip around her heart. She threw open the door to the backyard, only to find it choked with fog, thick and blinding. Shapes darted in the mist, children's silhouettes weaving through the trees, beckoning her to join them. "Mommy, hurry! We're waiting!" Their voices slithered through her mind, seductive and demanding. From the depths of fear, an iron will ignited within Sarah. She wouldn't just run. She needed answers before she lost everything. She stepped forward, heart racing, and called out into the void, "What do you want from us?" The laughter stopped. Silence fell, heavier than before. Moments passed, stretched to breaking point. Just as she felt certain no one would answer, the clamor surged back. It was louder, more insistent. "Everything," came the echoing response, woven into the night's chill, binding her heart with terror. In that moment, Sarah understood the stakes. This was a game of possession and despair, and she was now irrevocably entangled in their web. Would she uncover the horrifying truth? Or would the game consume her completely, body and soul? The fog thickened around her, suffocating and damp, as Sarah pushed further into the backyard. She could barely see a few feet in front of her, but the beckoning figures loomed, their playful giggles mingling with the rustling of leaves. It was unnerving how familiar they felt, like echoes of a long-lost childhood. "Ben!" she shouted, her voice swallowed by the mist. Every instinct screamed that she needed to turn back, but her feet were rooted in the soft earth, heart hammering as the childish laughter seemed to morph into something sinister. "You came to play." A voice chirped again, this time closer, almost right beside her. It was Alice. The little girl's face emerged from the thick haze, pale and wide-eyed, a smile plastered on her face that didn't reach her eyes. "We all want to play, Mommy. Where's Ben?" Sarah's voice cracked, desperation seeping through every word as she frantically searched for signs of life amongst the creeping shadows. Alice tilted her head, an unsettling grin stretching across her small features. "He's safe for now." The words dripped with an eerie sweetness that sent chills down Sarah's spine. "But if you want to see him, you need to join us." "Join you?" Sarah's heart raced, each pulse pounding in her ears like a war drum. "What do you mean?" Without waiting for an answer, another figure stepped from the mist, the silhouette unmistakable. It was Ben, but there was something off about him, his movements jerky, eyes glassy, as if he wasn't completely there. "Mommy, come play," he called, extending his hand toward her, but there was a hollowness in his voice that filled her with dread. "No!" she screamed, shaking her head violently. "Ben, please, come back." Then the shadows began to swirl, dark tendrils snaking around the children, pulling them further from her grasp. Sarah lunged forward, trembling hands reaching for her son, but an unseen force flung her back, sending her crashing to the ground. "Why won't you come?" Alice asked, tilting her head like a curious little bird. "Don't you want to be with us forever?" Panic surged through Sarah like ice water flooding her veins. She could feel the dark energy growing thicker, closing in on her from all sides. "What do you want?" "The game," came the choral reply of the unseen children, their laughter rising to a cacophony that echoed through the trees. "You have to choose, Mommy. You can't fight us." As darkness crept into her vision, choking out the last glimmers of hope, Sarah felt an overwhelming wave of despair wash over her. She fumbled through her memories, searching for strength. But in the depths of this twisted playground of horror, was there even a way out? Would she sacrifice all for the possibility of saving Ben? An image flickered in her mind, of a warm embrace, of innocence lost. But just as that fleeting hope ignited, shadows closed in tighter. "Join us. Embrace the game." The laughter turned into screams, the clarity of children's voices muddled by a depth of anguish echoing through her very bones. In that moment Sarah realized, playing wasn't just about fun, it was a matter of survival. Before she could decide, the voices twisted around her, resonating in a way that felt like nails on a chalkboard. "What is your choice?" And then the mist exploded, enveloping her in a blinding white light. When it faded, she stood alone, the backyard desolate, eerily silent. No children. No Ben. Only the weight of a choice lingering in the air, heavy as sorrow. Sarah's breath hung in her throat as she whispered, "What have I done?" And somewhere in the depths of the fog, a heartbeat echoed back. What awaited her in this vast vacuum of despair? The game was far from over. Sarah staggered back, the silence crushing her like a weight. It felt surreal, disorienting. One moment, she was engulfed in laughter and shadows, the next, she was left alone in the bleak, fog-laden yard. Fear clawed at her gut. Was this a trick? The absence of Ben felt like a void, an aching reminder of something lost. "What have I done?" she whispered again, desperation pooling in her voice. She turned around, longing for any sign of movement, a flicker of hope. The air thickened with an oppressive quiet, almost mocking her. She felt exposed, vulnerable, the chill nipping at her skin like icy fingers. As if summoned by her despair, the fog began to swirl again, twisting and coiling like an ancient serpent. Shapes began to emerge, not just children but indistinct forms, too vague yet too close. Sarah's heart raced, adrenaline surging through her veins. "Ben!" she cried out once more, the sound echoing back, distorted and sinister. It morphed into that same childish laughter, taunting her from the depths of the mist. "Where are you?" A low whisper brushed against her ear, chilling and sweet, "We're here, Mommy. Come and play." Gritting her teeth, she spun on her heel, moving toward the house. She felt the shadows stretch behind her, reaching with icy tendrils that whispered promises of comfort and companionship. But she refused to surrender. The back door creaked open, revealing a darkened interior, the familiar scent of her home now tinged with something rotten. She hesitated on the threshold, a sudden thought halting her: what waited for her inside? Against her better judgment, she crossed the threshold. The living room was awash in gloom, shadows dancing along the walls. "Ben?" she called again, voice trembling. Nothing. Just silence. Sarah's chest tightened. Each breath felt heavy. She ventured deeper into the house, heart pounding, every creak of the floorboards echoing like thunder against the oppressive stillness. Then she heard a soft, childlike giggle coming from upstairs. She froze, panic coursing through her like electricity. The laughter twisted into that same eeriness from the yard. "Come up, Mommy. We're waiting. Ben!" she shouted, racing up the staircase. The banister felt slick under her grip. The laughter grew louder, resonating in the hollow spaces of the house. It beckoned her, pulling her toward a door at the end of the hall, one that had always been locked. She'd never been able to open it, but now. The handle shifted under her hand without effort. It was as if something eagerly awaited her. "What's behind this door?" she murmured to herself. With a deep inhale, she pushed it open. Inside was a room bathed in darkness, save for the ghostly glow emanating from a circle of faded toys and dusty trinkets, the remnants of forgotten childhood. The air was thick with the scent of decay, as though joy had turned to ash. Then she saw them. Shadows of children, heads tilted back, eyes glimmering with a malevolent light, swirled in a macabre dance. Laughter erupted once more, but this time it was laced with malice. "Join us." Her stomach knotted. Ben stood in the center, his face void of emotion, a porcelain doll trapped within a shell of unnatural stillness. "Help us, Mommy," he cried, but the words echoed hollow, his body jerking as if strings of a puppet pulled him closer to the circle. "Stop. Get away from him." Sarah lunged forward, but it felt like running through molasses, the shadows woven together, a suffocating net of darkness entwined around her. "You have to choose." They chimed in unison, eyes locking on hers with an unsettling hunger. A choice. The word reverberated through her mind. Could she choose to save one? Or would that mean sacrificing the other? In that wretched moment, she realized, she never held the power. The game was rigged from the start. As the shadows grew denser, suffocating her with their whispers, the room began to spin. Time warped and twisted, their laughter swelling to a deafening roar. "What will you do, Mommy?" they taunted. Echoing their insidious question, the mist outside thickened, a fresh wave of dread washing over her. And from the depths of that tortured chamber, another voice emerged, low and chilling. The final choice awaits in that moment. Fear gripped her like a vice. Was escape even an option, or was her fate sealed within the fog? The shadows pulsed, a dark force wrapping around Sarah, pressing down on her chest until she struggled to breathe. The laughter, a cacophony of gleeful malice, twisted her insides. "Ben!" she screamed again, desperation turning her voice to gravel. The children's eyes, hollow, hungry, unblinking, stared back, a multitude of reflections dancing across their spectral faces. They beckoned with skeletal fingers, pulling her closer, closer to their circle of decay. She felt drawn, no, compelled to join them, her body betraying her will. Then, echoing from a corner, came a sorrowful wail. Not the immature giggle, but a heart-wrenching cry that sent a jolt through her. "Mommy!" It was Ben, his voice cracking as if the very air shattered with his plea. The shadows shifted, creating a winding path that led to him. She took a step forward, but the darkness resisted, snapping at her like a caged beast. "Mommy, help me." Each stride felt like she was wading through a swamp, every inch hard-won against the refusal of the shadows. The children sang, but their melody morphed into sinister whispers, wrapping around her mind. "Choose. Choose." Ben's outstretched arms pulled her further, a flicker of life amidst the chilling void. Mustering her strength, she pressed through the thick fog that threatened to merge her with the shadows. "Hold on, Ben. I'm coming." The playroom, though haunting, flickered to life in her mind, the laughter, the brightness of his smile. That warmth was a distant memory, but it fueled her resolve. She surged forward with newfound determination, lunging past the grinning children who hissed like serpents, their candy-coated innocence now twisted in hunger. Just as she reached the circle, the children shrieked in unison. It's her. She has to choose. Their collective gaze locked onto her, 100 glimmers of dark curiosity diving deep into her soul. Mommy. It's not too late. Ben was bobbing on the edges of that circle, his eyes wide, pleading. She could see the faint glimmer of hope shimmering in them, and it ignited a fighting spirit within her. She fought against the tide of darkness, groping for him, praying he could break through. Let him go. She shouted, pushing through the murmurs lapping at her legs like cold water. No more games. Remember, Mommy? We're all waiting for you. The shadows hissed, their voices intertwining until they became one. An idea ignited in her mind. What if she could turn their game against them? She could defy them, reclaim her choice. She decided to let go. Ben. I choose you. The words tumbled from her lips. As soon as they left her mouth, the room trembled, shadows recoiling. The children shrieked, an orchestra of rage and horror. No. You chose. Looking deep into Ben's eyes, she felt the truth wash over her. Love doesn't demand a choice. Love fights. The shadows screamed as they began to unravel. With each syllable, the pulsating darkness shifted, twisting like smoke pushed through a crack in a door. But as quickly as the terror began to fade, a new entity arose from within the swirling mass. It towered above her, eyes like coals burning through the night. You think you can escape? You have only begun to pay. The atmosphere thickened, sealing the door behind her, the laughter rising once more, louder and more distorted. The walls began to close in, cutting her off from the way she had come. Ben! She cried out one last time, her heart pounding in her chest, knowing their bond was now a tether stretching thin. As the presence loomed closer, a chilling thought pierced her mind. Perhaps the shadows had been watching all along, and the true game was yet to unfold. Mommy, please. The plea was replaced by silence, and the darkness began to thrum with anticipation. What more would they demand from her? As the shadows encircled her, she realized this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would entwine them forever. And still, the mist outside thickened, ever encroaching. What would she have to sacrifice next? The oppressive darkness loomed larger, swallowing Sarah in its relentless grip. All around her, whispers began to rise again, low and eerie, a chorus of longing that sent chills racing down her spine. Shadows morphed, twisted, and pulled at her from all angles. Don't ignore us, Mommy, they crooned, their voices dripping with malice. You'll see it's a game, and you're losing. Ben's cry echoed faintly in the distance, a haunting reminder of the fragile connection she fought to maintain. She pressed forward, heart racing. One step, two, a chaotic dance through the thickening shadows that choked the light. I won't leave you. She shouted, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice, a crack in her brave facade. Panic surged through her veins. Was he really out there? Or had she already lost him to the darkness that toyed with her mind? Come play with us. The children chimed, their sickly sweet tone twisting into a shriek, you can't escape. Look at what you've done. In the blink of an eye, the playroom flickered with a fleeting image of Ben, his smiling face smeared with confusion and fear. It was just a glimpse, and it vanished. The laughter reverberated in a cacophony of taunts that echoed off the walls. Mommy. This time, the voice was tinged with a plea that was too real, too desperate. Was this the last echo of her son, or a cruel joke designed to break her? She felt the ground under her sway and pulse like a heartbeat beneath her feet. Stop! She screamed, clutching her head as if that could block out the noise. For a moment, the shadows hesitated, almost as if taken aback by her boldness. Stop? But we just want to play. They giggled again, unearthing memories as they pushed her deeper into despair. Flickers of joy from her son's life, playdates, birthday parties, laughter in the park, each one tainted and twisted. Suddenly, she found herself standing before a fork, two paths branching out before her. Left stood the hollow-eyed children, their faces twisted into ghastly masks, extending their hands with sinister glee. To the right, a swirling fog beckoned, swallowing the echoes of Ben's cries. Choose. They sang, and the weight of her choice hung heavy in the air. Could these shadows truly have the power to shape her fate? Remembering Ben's desperate gaze, she steeled herself. If you want me to choose, fine. She took a step toward the right and felt a rush of energy, the ground vibrating beneath her, but the shadows shrieked louder than before. No. Not that way. Their icy fingers scraped against her skin, desperation reflecting their terror. You don't want to go there, do you? You might lose everything. But it was too late, she was caught in the momentum of her choice. The fog beckoned closer, swallowing her in a swirl of uncertainty. Mommy. Help. Ben's voice was louder now, closer. She lunged through the mist, heart pounding, breath catching in her throat. But as she dove deeper, the atmosphere shifted, and a paralyzing dread consumed her. It felt as if she were being pulled apart, every ounce of her existence threatened by an unseen force. Then, a voice whispered through the chaos, slithering through the darkness, "You've chosen your fate, Sarah. But do you truly understand what you've lost?" And suddenly, the fog began to part, revealing too many shadows that twisted in grotesque formations, merging into something far more terrifying. A chilling thought crept into her mind: what if she wasn't just saving Ben? What if she had unwittingly sealed both their fates instead? What now? She gasped, her heart racing. A faint laugh answered her, echoing through the thickening air. The shadows shifted, revealing eyes everywhere, hunger reflected back at her. The game had only just begun, and the stakes were escalating into depths of despair she couldn't fathom. What price would she have to pay to save them both? The fog began to lift, twisting and curling like smoke from a dying fire. In its wake, Sarah stumbled forward, disoriented, her heart racing against the silence that felt thick enough to choke on. But silence was an illusion, the whispers were still there, swirling around her head, taunting her. "You shouldn't have come here, Mommy," a voice sneered, so close it felt as if invisible lips brushed against her ear. The swirling mist revealed a vast, empty landscape, devoid of color. The ground shimmered like glass, reflecting distorted images of her own expression: fear, confusion, and a creeping realization that everything had changed. Suddenly, laughter erupted. It was high-pitched and infectious, a sound that jangled her nerves. She turned, searching for the source, but it only echoed back at her, warping into a cacophony that sent chills down her spine. "Mommy! Mommy! Come and play!" The voices jested, overwhelming her senses as shadows darted in the periphery, flickering in and out like dying stars. "Ben!" She called again, desperation leaking into her words, but all she got back were mocking giggles. The laughter morphed into a deep, unsettling resonance. "He's playing a game, too, but it's a game you can't win. He's ours now, just like you." Her breath hitched painfully in her throat. What did they mean? She felt her knees give way and she sank to the ground, pressing her palms against the cold, hard surface. The mirror beneath her reflected visions that made her stomach churn: twisted scenes of children lost in perpetual night, their hollow eyes wide with terror. "Mommy, don't cry." A fragment of Ben's voice pierced through the chaos. "I'm here." Each syllable sent a jolt of warmth through her, igniting a flicker of hope. But the rising tide of doubt was relentless. Was this a trick? Would his cries lead her to save him, or deeper into the abyss? Panic surged anew, its claws tightening around her throat. Then she remembered the choice she made. They had offered her two paths, the fog had promised something she didn't understand. Now, she felt trapped in its embrace, suffocated by regret and fear. "Let him go!" she shouted, every ounce of her being poured into that one desperate plea. The air crackled with tension, and she could hear the shadows whisper among themselves, their tones shifting from gleeful to skeptical. "Let him go?" One shadow laughed. "What's the fun in that? We have so much more to teach you." The ground quaked underneath her, and more eyes blinked into existence, each pair glinting like shards of glass. The darkness surrounded her, and the fog encroached again, thickening into a solid wall. It felt alive, pulsating around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. A dire echo filled her mind. Memories of Ben playing in sunshine were torn apart by visions of shadowed faces gnarled with glee. And she recognized them, the children from the park, all twisted and broken now. "No, no!" Sarah screamed, banging her fists against the glassy surface, but the haunting echoes only grew louder. "Please, let me save him. I'll do anything." The shadows paused, considering her words. Then, in perfect unison, they leaned closer, their chilling faces so near she could almost feel their breath. "What will you give up to save him, Mommy?" They sang, the seductive rhythm luring her into their net. A warped sense of reality hung in the air. The chilling grip of understanding settled in her chest. What if her sacrifice for Ben meant losing herself entirely? "You've already made one choice, Haven Tu." The voice taunted again. "What about this time?" The fog intensified, swirling violently, threatening to pull her under. "Time to decide, Sarah. What do you value most?" In that moment, the weight of her love began to feel like a curse. She had to act, to choose wisely, before the shadows consumed everything she held dear. With trembling hands and a mind spiraling into chaos, she grasped her next move. Would she push forward into the darkness or retreat futilely from the choice laid out at her feet? What more would she sacrifice to fight for a future where Ben might still be alive? The shadows leaned closer, their grins widening, waiting for her answer. The game was just beginning. The fog thickened, swirling around her like a predator. Sarah's heart raced as each shadow pressed in closer. She could nearly feel their breath, a chilling breeze that whispered secrets meant to steal her sanity. The laughter rang out again, a twisted symphony that sent shivers through her entire being. "Mommy, we're waiting," they sang, their voices echoing, bending reality like the bending shadows around her. Each taunt ignited her desperation, but also a flicker of clarity, a longing to break free from this nightmare. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. She couldn't let them drown her in their mockery, couldn't allow them to claim what was left of her courage. The fog shimmered, and the shadows pulled back slightly. She suddenly felt her stomach clench as if something started to shift in the very air around her. "What if we give you something in return?" One voice hissed, a playful malice lacing its tone. "What do you mean?" She glared into the darkness, defiance igniting her resolve. "What could you offer me?" In response, the shadows danced, charred hands reaching out as they formed shapes. Her fear fed their game. Visions stretched across her mind, images of Ben laughing, the summer sun warming his face, his little hands clutching a toy. She remembered the boy whose curly hair bounced with every step, and a wave of wanting surged through her. "Give us your heart," the chorus coaxed, their voices dripping with delight. "And in exchange, we'll let him go." Sarah's breath turned jagged. How much did they know? Was it truly a trade? They were always hungry for something, for pain, for despair. "What do you mean, my heart?" she stammered, uncertainty sapping her strength. "Your love, your light. All that makes you, you," they crooned, their grins growing wider. They fed on despair, yet they dangled hope like a fish on a line, always just out of reach. Would they truly release him, or was this another trap? "Give us the love you keep hidden. Let it pour forth, and we will give you back your boy." Each word vibrated through her veins, igniting terror and temptation. Could she surrender everything? The shadows knew how to twist the knife. Just as she could feel herself teetering on the edge of faith and despair, another voice sliced through, "Mommy. Please." His voice cut through the diabolical waves of whispers. "Don't leave me. I need you." With those words, a surge of hope filled her, but it felt frail, like a candle in the wind. "I won T," she shouted, clenching her fists tighter. "I won T. Let you take him. I'll fight you." The shadows roared with laughter, an explosion of sound that echoed through the void. Fight? What a delicious choice. They surged forward, a wave of darkness cascading toward her. The glassy ground began to tremble beneath her, pulsing rhythmically like a heart. "Mommy, don't." Ben's voice trembled now, fragile in the storm. "I'm scared." His plea broke through the darkness like a beam of light, igniting her resolve. Twisting panic warped into clarity. This was not just about Ben, it was a reckoning for her very soul. With a defiant roar, Sarah pulled her arms around herself, her heart racing. "I'll face you. You won T. Take him or me." The fog swirled violently in response, angered by her stand. The shadows shifted, growing restless, as if Sarah's courage posed a threat. And the darkness shrieked in frustration, crashing against her as she willed her fear into strength. The ground began to crack, splintering under the weight of her choice. Ben's cries echoed in her mind, fueling the fire that surged through her veins. "Mommy." Before she could respond, the shadows lunged, enveloping her whole. In that moment, two realities collided: the warm embrace of love and the icy grip of despair. Sarah gasped as she was swallowed by the dark, but she wouldn't go quietly. A desperate pact formed in the silence as she felt the edges of her power spark against the relentless night. What would happen when she faced the shadows? What hidden strength could she uncover in the deepening void? As she felt herself pulling deeper into the abyss, she realized her fight had only just begun. The game twisted around her, the stakes rising higher than she could imagine. The fog lifted, revealing an expansive void, heavy with an impending storm. Sarah stood, heart pounding, anchored by a blend of fear and fierce determination. The shadows, once playful, now hovered menacingly, a tempest of darkness threatening to swallow her whole. "Let him go," she shouted, her voice echoing against the emptiness. Silence enveloped her, but she could feel their eyes, those cold, empty eyes watching her. "Do you really think you can control this, Mommy?" One shadow whispered, the taunts wrapping around her like chains. "You are so very weak, just like every other parent." "No!" she screamed, shaking the fear that threatened to root her in place. "I'm not weak. I'm fighting for my son." In that moment, clarity surged within her. She recalled Ben's face, that radiant smile that could light up the darkest of rooms. She could feel him out there, caught in some wicked game, yearning for her love, her strength. As if sensing her renewed resolve, the shadows twisted and pulsed, suffocating the air around her. "Mommy, join us," they chanted, luring her with promises of calm, of security. "You don't have to fight anymore." But Sarah knew better. She wouldn't yield to fear. Scraping at the edges of her heart, she summoned the love she had for Ben, the fierce, protective force that had always coursed through her veins. "I'm here to save him," she declared, her voice stronger now, echoing as if the air itself craved defiance. The shadows recoiled momentarily at her conviction, shifting uncomfortably. They danced in chaotic patterns, whispering fears that wrapped around her like thick vines, trying to pull her back into the depths of despair. "Your love is weak," they hissed. "It binds you as easily as it can bind him. We'll ensnare you both." "No." She vehemently shook her head, steeling her resolve. "Love is strength. It can't be twisted to control us." With each proclamation, the air crackled. She felt warmth radiating from her heart, creating a small sphere of light around her, an aura that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. It was fragile, but it burned with the intensity of a mother's love. Ben! She cried out, focusing on the warmth that blossomed in her chest. I'm coming for you. The shadows screamed in unison, their voices a cacophony of anger and desperation. You can't save him. He is ours. But then, piercing through the haze, a flicker of recognition. The familiar sound of Ben's voice, soft and pleading. Mommy. He sounded so close, and yet so far. Hold on, baby. I'm breaking through. Fueled by a surge of determination, she rushed forward into the heart of the shadowy dance. You don't own him. He will never belong to you. The shadows writhed, their forms stretching and shifting as if attempting to swallow her whole. But she would not be consumed. Together. Sarah shouted. We are stronger together. The sphere of light expanded, illuminating her surroundings with fierce determination. The shadows shrank back, hissing at the brilliance that pushed against their dark filaments. She could feel Ben's presence drawing closer, like a beacon of light guiding her through the storm. With each step, she could almost make out his silhouette amidst the swirling darkness. Sarah. The voice came again, clearer now, woven through the chaos. Ben. She cried, a frantic rhythm filling her heart. I'm right here. The warmth grew, pushing harder against the shadows, ripping back the tendrils that sought to ensnare them both. The energy illuminated their prison, dazzling light refracting against the encroaching dark. And with a blinding flash, she lunged into the heart of the whirling mass, her hands outstretched. The darkness howled, a miserable chorus of despair as it recoiled from her fierce determination. Let him go. In that moment, she felt Ben's hands grasp her own. Their eyes met, and in his gaze, she saw the remnants of joy, the purity of innocent love that was untouched by shadows. The moment felt explosive, a collision of light and dark that left her breathless. Mommy! Ben shouted, tears brightening his eyes. The shadows twisted. Furiously, pulling away from their combined energy, shrieking not just in anger, but in fear. I'm here, Ben. We're together. With an explosion of brilliant light, her heart expanded, melding with Ben's essence. The shadows screeched as they imploded upon themselves, consumed by their own dark power as the light pierced through, illuminating the space around them, scattering the dense fog like cotton candy in the sun. The darkness shattered, revealing the soft glow of early morning light. Sarah found herself and Ben standing in the backyard, the sun casting gentle rays over their surroundings. What just happened? Ben murmured, his voice cracking as he stared at the remnants of fog vaporizing in the warm light. Sarah fell to her knees, pulling him close, tightening her embrace. We defeated them, baby. We broke their hold. Relief overcame her, their love had triumphed against the darkness. No more games? He whispered, wide-eyed and innocent. Never again. Her voice cracked with emotion, cupping his face in her hands and meeting his gaze. But in the corners of her mind, Sarah felt a subtle echo, the distant whispers of shadows retreating, a promise they would return. Yet now, she understood something vital: love could light even the darkest of paths. From this moment onward, she would always fight, and together, they would stand against whatever terror dared to claim them. No one could play with their hearts ever again. Now let us go home, Sarah said, her heart soaring as they stepped forward, leaving the remnants of a haunted dream behind. As they walked away, the sun sparkled overhead, illuminating their path, a tangible reminder of love's resilience, always shining through the darkness. Sarah stood firm, knowing the battle may end here, for now, but she had won the war for her family's heart. And that was enough. If you were gripped by this story, you need to subscribe now to the channel. Don't miss out on our exclusive tales. Click that bell and select all notifications so you're always in the loop. Smash that like button to help feed the algorithm and support the channel, because it truly makes a difference. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion and discover the power of love. Thank you for being part of our journey. Let us keep the stories alive together.